Hey, I'm Dr. Greg Ellis, and I want to talk to you about metabolic adaptations. It's a subject dear to my heart. Now, whenever anyone loses weight, if they do it by themselves or they do it working with a nutritional counselor, everybody will plot that weight loss, acting on the idea that a pound of fat contains 3,500 calories. This is the basic calorie theory. Each pound of fat will relinquish 3,500 calories of energy. So to plot the weight loss, let's say we want to reduce your food intake by 500 calories a day. That would be 3,500 will disappear in a week, lose a pound a week. And then they plot this on a graph all the way out to whatever your goal weight might be over a period of, say, 10 weeks to 24 weeks or whatever. There's a problem with this. I had a problem with this because I am a believer in the calorie theory. I have no question that it's valid. But in my own experiences, particularly when I was younger, just coming up and learning all this stuff back in the 70s and experimenting with these things, I would always stop losing weight at a specific number of calories. In other words, I'd cut my calories down to a specific level. That's what I would consume, and expect to keep losing until I got to my goal weight. But it always slowed up and stopped. And I understood this, but I didn't know what was going on. Later on, I discovered this issue of metabolic adaptations. So the body, through its spectrum of weight, will adapt to different dietary regimens. When I was, for example, in graduate school, I wanted to just consume a lot of calories and get my weight way up there and see what happened. So I started consuming 10,000 calories a day. I got up to 265 pounds. I could not sustain that. There was no way in the world I could hold that weight. I could not eat that much food continuously. And this experiment I did before the actual scientific experiments were ever completed on overfeeding and overstuffing, where we learn that the body starts to waste calories. And then, when I wanted to reduce way down to 2% body fat, I really cut down on the calories. In fact, at one point, I did 2 9-day back-to-back fasts, eating no calories at all. This was the most exhausting and difficult thing I ever did. In fact, the covers, the sheet to my bed, it was summertime, was so heavy, the sheet, that I didn't have enough energy to roll over underneath it. That's how exhausted I was. And, of course, I rapidly regained the weight after the fast. Now, what happens in metabolic adaptations? The classic study in this, it's been known for a long time, but few have written about it, is what was known as the Minnesota study. This was a study that was organized at the end of World War II, where they replicated the conditions in war-torn Europe, same number of calories. So they got conscientious objectors, and they fed them the same amount of calories that the people in Europe were exposed to during the war. These guys were consuming about 3,400 calories a day to maintain their weight at 15% body fat, and their food intake was reduced to 1,570 calories. This was a 26-week experiment. What happened? Well, they got down to 5% body fat, and then didn't lose any more. That was it. So the 1,570 calories was now enough to maintain this new metabolic rate. So for every pound you lose when you're in a weight-reducing program, you will have to decrease your calorie intake a certain amount. Now, the range I've observed in the literature is a low of about 10 calories per pound. That's how much you'll have to reduce your food intake to compensate for the metabolic adaptations. In the Minnesota experiment, those fellows had to reduce their food intake, or it was reduced by 50 calories per pound. That's how dramatic the adaptations were. Now, these adaptations range over a spectrum of your body weight, body fat continuum. The fatter you are, the less these adaptations will be, and the leaner you are, the stronger they will be. This is particularly dictated by how much lean body mass you have and how much fat mass. But fat mass is the strongest predictor. The body will not give up its last pounds of fat. It just will not allow that to happen. So when I got down to 175, for example, and then I reduced down to 165, I just lost mostly lean tissue. I didn't get any more cut, shall we say. I stayed the same. My body just would not give up the last couple pounds of fat. It just refused to do so. Now, when you come out of this weight loss thing, most people are going to regain their weight. We know that this happens. Why is this? Well, they're suffering from something called hyperphagia, ravenous overeating. It's a hunger drive that the body institutes to drive your fat mass and your lean body mass back up to where it was. So you're just starving, and all the enzymes that process food as fuel are all revved up to grab up on any circulating fuels and put it back into the tissue stores. What happens is that your fat mass will rapidly increase faster than your lean body mass, and you'll get back up to your 100% level, exactly where you were before you started, and the ravenous overeating will not turn off because lean body mass repletion lags behind. You just don't get that back. Finally, when the lean body mass is fully repleted, that's when the hunger will turn off. Now, one of the ways around this is to follow a low-carb diet because carbs are converted very aggressively into body fat. And that's why you pick your fat up quickly and you'll still be hungry all the time. It's not a good idea then to stay on a high carbohydrate, low-fat diet because it makes it very difficult to hold lost weight when you're doing that. The idea then is to use a low carbohydrate diet. Expect that it's going to get more difficult to lose more fat as you continue to go down in weight. You have to plan for it. You can use increases in exercise activity. You have to start counting your calories. Anyone who argues that the low carbohydrate diet will spare you from paying attention to your calories is kidding you. Of course, it all depends on what weight you want to achieve, but you're simply not going to go down and get as lean as you want on a low-carb diet because it won't work that way. Some argue that protein and fat will not cause the body to lay down fat. That's not true. You will. I did it. Others I know did it when they suggest that you can eat as much as you like, as much as you wish. You don't tell a former football lineman to eat as much meat as he wants because he will. So I was actually sitting down and eating 4 or 5 pounds of meat at a setting. It was just crazy. So in a week and a half, I gained 5 pounds when I first began the low-carb diet. We have to therefore be conscious of these metabolic adaptations. The leaner you are, the stronger they are. And they drive hunger very, very strongly because the body wants to return to where it was. So these considerations have to all be understood before you begin to undertake a program to lose weight, or you're destined to fail. The metabolic adaptations work hand in hand with calories in, calories out. They both are operative, and we need to understand that. The idea of just throwing this whole calories in, calories out thing out the window is just ridiculous. And I'd see a lot of people arguing that the laws of thermodynamics don't work in humans. So my argument, of course, to that is, let's not even talk about laws of thermodynamics. The fact is, we can measure your calorie burn. We've been doing it for 100 years. So if we can do that, then we know that the calorie deal is for real. If you've got a dog, for example, your vet says your dog is overweight and you're feeding that dog 2 cups of food a day, and you can control the food intake, so now you cut it down 3/4 of a cup twice a day, that dog will lose weight. We've done it with our own dogs. We've seen how this works. The calories are important. Don't let anyone convince you that calories are meaningless. They are very important, and we can understand the effect of reducing body weight and making adjustments for metabolic adaptations. And interestingly, the metabolic adaptations appear to be most aggressive or active in your physical activity level. So your resting metabolic rate doesn't seem to change that much, but the reduction in calories seems to occur via your physical activity level during the course of the day. That's your lesson on metabolic adaptations. I'm Dr. Greg Ellis.